gospel comes from Matthew 25, verses 31 through 40, the judgment of the nations. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep at his right hand, and the goats at the left. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, "Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me." The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. The song we're about to sing is a tough one. I don't know if you know it very well. It has very difficult music, and its words seem to whiz by us too fast or drudge along too slow and blow by and sometimes sting us like sand in a dust storm. The song is, it's considered the black national anthem. Bishop John Shelby Spong was a leader in the youth group in the Episcopal Church, and he remembers going to an African Methodist Episcopal Church for an integration rally some 50 years ago. And they all stood up to sing the national anthem, and he was ready to sing, "Oh, say can you," and they start with this song. Lift every voice and sing, because this is the song. This is the song of the struggle that black people have suffered and are moving through. It all started in the year 1900. That was just about 37 years after slavery was abolished. 36. It was just 5 years after the separate but equal ruling of the Supreme Court. And yet, the black community had some hope. John Weldon Johnson was asked to write something for a Lincoln birthday celebration in Jacksonville, Florida. He was a principal of a school. I am sure it was separate but equal. And he thought about writing an essay, but he said that it needs more than that. It needs to carry the power of the black experience. In fact, he needed even more than just a poem. So he contacted his brother, Rosamond Johnson, and asked him to write music to the words he was developing. Now, the music is tough. It's hard to play, isn't it? Not too bad. It's hard for me to play. It carries itself in a 6/8 time signature because black spirituals are often 3 beats counted as 2. They'll even take a 4/4 regular march and turn it into dun 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 dun, and it gives it the swing. You sing it slow enough to feel the pain, but you have to sing it fast enough to feel the joy. And listen to the joy of the first line. I have it up here, but I can't see it so well. I'm having troubles with that. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. And Rosamond Johnson took that and he built this swelling melody. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. See how it lifts up. And then the next line follows the same pattern. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Oh, how magnificent is that? This was written in 1900. This was at the time when, Scott Joplin had just published his first sheet music of ragtime. Ragtime had lived in the black section of town, and he published this music, and it is complex. It's a maple leaf rag, and I still don't get it. It is tough. So a lot of what Rosamond Johnson did has that kind of melody and harmony. But it's not this raggy stuff that came from the professors at the fancy houses. It follows a lot of what Sousa was doing same time. Becomes a march forward through time of an oppressed people who see hope somewhere ahead. And that middle passage, that interlude, sing a song full of the faith of the dark past that taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Boy, you hear both sides of it. And then winds up the first verse with a starburst, a sunburst of hope. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Wow. At that time also, remember, just 30-some years after the Civil War, 5 years into separate but equal, Jim Crow laws were all over the place. And there were two different camps of how the black community was going to deal with their racism, with how they are treated. One was Booker T. Washington, an educator at Tuskegee University, who said we should avoid political involvement. Just work on education. Get the knowledge, get the certificate, get a career, and get into the middle class. In the process, the white society will start to see that we are human. We are not subhuman. We are not dumb by nature. And we will advance. And that was pretty much where John Weldon Johnson was. He believed in education and building up from the grassroots of the blacks themselves. But there was also, that was Booker T. Washington. Did I say it? Yeah, Booker T. Washington. But there was also W.E.B. Du Bois, who was the first man to get a doctorate from Harvard University. And he believed it had to be political. We had to be there doing the political things, getting out, well, there was no vote, but getting the presence of the black community into the eyes of the politicians, marching, demonstrating, boycotting, whatever it took to get the message across. And Johnson was of that mind too, just a little bit. And that second verse starts to show the depth of the struggle that blacks faced in 1900, or 1950, for that matter. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Take a moment and think what that means. Hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter. Out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. We've come here. And we've reached a point where we can express the depths of the struggle and the depths of the hope in our lives. That was in 1900. 63 years later, there was a rally in Washington, D.C. Rosa Parks had already been arrested for sitting in the on a bus and being required to get up because a white person needed to sit in her seat. She didn't just sit there because she was tired. She says, "I was tired of always giving in." This is after the beginning of the marches, the freedom marches, and the March on Washington in August 28th, 50 years ago, last Wednesday, brought 250,000 to 500,000 people to the mall in Washington, between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. Now, I wanted to go get all prophetic all over you. Talk how we, in an all-white small-town community with our hand-me-down bigotry, a little frayed around the cuffs. Need to wake up. It's not over. We were talking about this. My son said, but nothing has happened since the mid-'80s. Why didn't we celebrate this in 1988? Well, it's been a long road, and a lot of things have happened that are good, and there's a lot left to be done. But the important part, it seems to me, is we're doing it. Jesus talks in this parable about bringing the nations of the world before the Son of Man. He said nations, not individuals. We as Americans think in terms of individuals. He's talking not about what you personally do, but what we collectively do. And he says, you helped the poor. You fed the hungry. You housed the homeless. You clothed the naked. And you visited the sick and those in prison. Now, there's a lot left to be done. It's a shining star that stays just in front of us all of the way. But we do not have to fall victim to the negative, ignorant, vicious, hateful prejudice that looks at all people of different colors and ethnic groups and puts them down because they're not us. You know, this is America. We are not so much a melting pot as we are a stew pot. And for 300 years, that stew has been brewing. And we've always had people who were shunned. We've had people, we have, as a nation, hated Micks and Spicks and Jaimes and Guineas and Polacks, until one day an Irish man marries an Italian woman, and their children grow up liking Irish whiskey and Italian wine. They're Americans. We gather each other's joy and victory and each other's struggle and despair, and we own it, and we are on the march too. We are the ones being shut out of lunch counters and beaten down in the streets. That's our history too. We are the ones who are just tired of giving in. This is our story. And if you look up away from the negative media, which is really involved with selling you stuff more than anything else, the negative media, and look outside and go around this town. We do feed the hungry. This Thursday, we're feeding the hungry. We do clothe the naked, don't we? If somebody in real need comes to the thrift shop, no charge. We are there with the sick through our hospital and clinic. We are there for the homeless, always reaching out in various ways. And we see to it that we minister to prisons and to the ailing and to the dying. And in doing so, we have done it to Christ. It didn't help those poor people. We are helping Christ. We are honoring Christ. We are living our Christian values. That hatred and separation and segregation and racism can never do. Can never be Christian. We do our best to join the circle. To join the boundaries that says, we're Americans and we came on this march and here we are, ready to sing this song. Let's stand up and we're going to sing. Lift every voice and sing.